Paintball nerd.
Today's guest on Paintball Nerds Fun 5 has been playing paintball since 1995. He's played with KAPP. He's played with Ironkids. He went pro with Dynasty in 2001. He's played with the Ironmen, Joy Division, Legacy, and Oakland Blast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Opie Loughran.
Hey, Isaac. How are you doing?
Good, Opie. Good to have you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, man, I remember you from probably the most standout thing that I remember, and I know we've talked about this quite a bit, is in Huntington Beach when you were playing against, I think, Joy Division, and you bunkered out. This is when they had sand, right?
Tauntauns.
Tauntauns.
Tauntauns, yeah.
Yep, and you bunkered out the 50 brick and then took their brick.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty wild. I mean, from just everything for it being, the first event kind of in that atmosphere right on the beach in a super populated area. Up to that point, if we did play any big venues, it was like we were in the parking lots of a stadium where, you don't have there was no, you wouldn't really have foot traffic or anything. So this was kind of the first event where you literally had hundreds of thousands of people just walking by, like, what is going on here? And then just coming down and, checking it out. You could, people were watching from the pier, and then obviously you had the grandstands were pretty large. And then, we were playing directly on the sand, which definitely threw a whole nother aspect into it. And then, having it come down to the final game of the tournament, winner take all, is kind of crazy how everything lined up from the start of the tournament up until that point. I mean, I know that, everybody, every player and every team was so hyped and looking forward to that, just to the event. Even before it started, there was so much hype about the event.
It was incredible, dude. It was the greatest thing that happened to paintball.
Yeah.
It really was.
Wow.
And to make a move like that, have the crowd go nuts, dude. All these people, what was that like?
No, I mean, it was unreal, like there were other tournaments where, when you had the pro finals, and especially the final game, and you'd have people on the sidelines, and, you'd be doing whatever, in whatever your spot is, you're playing your game. And, before you could even hear a kill count from somebody on your team, whether it was, your team shot someone or your team lost someone, normally that's how you would know, okay, we lost someone or we shot someone.
Right.
You would go entirely off of the crowd, and you would know who, like, which team is more popular. So you already know, like, okay, if I hear a loud cheer, then I know we shot someone. If you hear like, oh, or people booing or something like that, then someone on your team got shot. So it's kind of funny that way. But this was an entirely different level. Like, that was, right off the break, he came to our side of the field, and, Alex was immediately screaming at me. So I knew right away, where he was. And from the point that I bunkered him and lived, I could not hear another thing for the rest of the game. The crowd noise was just too loud. And I was just like, all right, I see people, there was one or two people that I could shoot at, but I mean, they were on me after that point. And I, as soon as I did that, I mean, it was it was over pretty quickly. I mean, I saw
Yeah.
Oliver moving up the other side of the field, BC moving up. Alex immediately was freed up. I mean, I could barely peek out of my bunker, let alone, try to gunfight with the rest of the people on their team. And I look
You didn't
over and
have to.
everyone else is just standing up over their bunkers, like shooting people. I'm like, so.
Oh man. Well, that's a memory of you that sticks out for me. I mean, most of the other memories that we have together are off the paintball field.
Yeah.
But what's a memory for you that really sticks out in paintball?
I guess another, I have a couple memories. I a lot of them have to do with final games and playing against international teams, especially Russian Legion. I think that, when they first came up, everyone was like, oh my God, Russian Legion, like it's only a matter of time before, you know, they're basically beating everyone. And it got to the point where we were playing against them, I feel like, in the finals of every event in the Millennium Series, or European, whatever the Super 7 in Europe, or Millennium Series, whatever. And it just seemed that every single time we played them, I would have my best games, or best game of the tournaments, and we'd win. And I remember the first time we played them was in, I think I believe it was in Toulouse, and it was the last game of the tournament, and we were playing them. I think this was before they had, I think this was the year before they went to a best of 3, or best of 5, or best of 7. So we had both played our first 2 games in the finals, and had beat the other 2 teams. So now we were playing each other in the last game, and I think it was, the point differential was minimal, maybe 1 or 2 points. So it was whoever wins this game, whoever wins this game is who wins the tournament. And up to that point, when you would have a 4-team round robin for the finals, there would be a lot of times where the last game doesn't even really,
Right.
It's different. Even if it counts, you might have a team that's up a lot of points, just based on how many kills they got in the other games, or how many bodies they dropped, or a flagpole, or whatever it is. So sometimes you would go in with where you're playing the points, and it's like, oh well, as long as they don't hang the flag on us, we're gonna win. So maybe you're not going out like to, maybe you still have to play the game. It's maybe if you lose, you're going to lose the tournament, but you go in like, oh, we can just stalemate this game, or
Right.
we can play defensively, and as long as they don't hang the flag, whether we win or whether we stalemate, we're gonna win the tournament. So this was different, and it was against Russian Legion, which that was, I think, really the first time that we were playing them in a situation like that. And so there was a lot of hype, and I remember I went to, there was kind of like a diamond on one side of the field, and myself and Mishka went to the same bunkers, mirrored from each other, which was kind of the bunker right before the diamond. So you would go from there and jump into the diamond, and we had, Mishka was always getting into the diamond fairly quickly, and then shooting pretty much the whole other team, the the few times we saw them on that field. It was also different because you would play, 5 or 6 fields. You'd narrow it down in the semis and finals for the pros. So you'd play, a couple, one or two field. I think you'd play 2 fields in like the semifinals or finals, but it was definitely different than how it is now in X ball, where you just play the same field every, every game. So I just remember that, going into that game, I was like, I have to get into the diamond before Mishka. And like, if I don't, then we're going to lose. If I do, then we're going to, then we're good. And like, I literally probably stopped at that bunker for like half a second. I was like, there's no way if I wait 2 seconds, he might get there before I do. Right. And I got there before him, and he made the jump right after me, but I got to the corner before him. So he was trying to crawl to the corner as I was in there. So I just popped up and shot him, and then shot another 2 guys real quick. And then, the normal people, I think, Ryan, Alex, and whoever, cleaned up we all cleaned it up. But that was kind of, that game, I think, was almost a little anticlimactic because it wasn't, I think we won the game with like 5 or 6 alive, and there wasn't really any, we were never in trouble. It was never, it wasn't a stressful game at all. It was just, it was pretty standard. And, it was like everyone was expecting this huge battle, and it was just like, it was over in 2 minutes, pretty run of the mill. So it was just like, after that game, everyone's like, oh, well, I guess, Dynasty, is still the best. And, Russian Legion, they're going to need to go back to the drawing board and, try to get better if they're going to challenge Dynasty. But probably my most memorable was, I guess maybe the following year, in the final event of the Millennium Series, was Campaign Cup in London, and they had now gone to a best of 5.
And this is 7-man.
Best of 5, yeah, in 7-man. So yeah, it was a best of 5 in the finals, and it was 7-man. So we won. We won the first 2 games against Russian. We were playing Russian Legion again in the finals. We won the first 2 games pretty standardly, and then they crushed us the next 2 games. So now it's game 5, last game, winner take all. And the way they had beat us those next 2 games, it was like, I mean, we beat them the first 2 games, but it was kind of like it could have gone either way. This was like, I mean, you couldn't even move. Like, they were shooting people off the break, and then it was just like it was over. Like literally them running from like flag station to flag station almost. Like, it was just,
they destroyed you.
Yeah, destroyed us. So now it's, we're going into the last game. People are like I don't even want to run to my initial bunker because I just got shot out. Like, I didn't like it. It wasn't that people were getting shot going to their bunkers. It was like they were getting shot like 5 times in the goggles running to their bunkers. Like, I
first
couldn't
spot.
even. It was like I can barely even step out of the flag station. What do we do? Just all 7 people back center or something, because people were getting shot going to back corners. Not even forget. Initial spots that weren't even that far, not even 50 bunkers. It was like they were getting smoked going to, stepping out of the flag station.
Yeah.
So it was something that I remember going into that game, people were really, really questioning, like, what do we do? Normally it's like there would be, for probably 6 out of 7 people off the break would have guns up. And, now you have 4 of those people saying like, I don't know if I don't know. I think I just need to put my head down and dive
Yeah.
into this bunker and just try to try to survive the first 15 seconds. And then we'll see what's up, which is crazy because, we had won the first 2 games, and now all of a sudden it's like, we're even, but we feel like we're down. So like it felt like the like we had lost 99 out of 100 games, and now this is the 100th, and we're going out there like shit, what do we even do, right? Like this is just
Yeah.
going to be another game just like the last 2. And um Oliver was like Oliver had tried going to the snake off the break one game, got shot. Then he went to the bunker behind it the next game and got shot off the break too. So he's like, well, like if I like, no matter what bunker I run to, I'm getting shot off the break. So in that 3rd game, he's like, or in the 5th game, he decides, well, screw it. I'm going to run to the snake off the break anyways. If I get shot, at least their guns are pulled so that maybe the people inside of him will get into their bunkers, even if he gets shot off the break. So he gets shot off the break. I was I was inside of him and was kind of on like the 40 brick, just inside the snake. And we had BC was in the back corner. We had Alex was on the other tape. Rodney was in the back center, and I forget. And Ryan was on the other tape as well. I believe. I think it was really just myself and BC on that side of the field. And the way that that was set up was there was a 50 brick where the snake was too, so the back corner couldn't shoot was completely blocked out from the snake. So basically, if you don't have anybody else, once you're in the snake, you pretty much can go straight up to the 50, like to the 50. There's nobody down the line that can stop you. And then if basically if there's 2 people in the snake, then they can decide if they want to trade out or bunker the other snake or whatever. But it was a pretty straightforward snake. So I was inside, and I'm looking at I have a guy in my mirror that's kind of watching over the guy in the snake, and I'm kind of looking at the snake, but I can't see where he's at, in the snake, right? So he popped up from kind of the middle part of the snake. He popped up one time and kind of almost shot me, because I'm trying to look at where he's at in the snake, and I'm like, well, screw this, because now he's just gonna go up to the 50, and he's gonna go up to the 50 and pop up and smoke me, right? So now I almost have to just tuck in as tight as I can and wait for him at the 50. And at the same time, I'm not the type of player that's just going to sit there and be like, oh, let me just post up for however long until this guy, gives me something to shoot at. So, I know that his head's down in the snake. So I'm, while I'm keeping an eye on him, I'm looking, looking at other spots and seeing where they're at, where the rest of the players are and whatnot. And I remember I turned my head for like 1 second the other way, and Alex was all the way on the other side of the field, but he's looking at the snake too, and he sees me kind of turn around, and he starts freaking out like, Opie, turn around, like freaking out, right? And I'm like, chill. I just turned for like a second, right? So that was kind of funny. It's just like that whole game. It was so like I've never been in a game where everyone leading up to the game, into the game, everything. It was the most stressful game I've been a part of, because normally leading up to the game, you're confident. You're like, all right,
Right.
cool, right? It was like there was no confidence. Then first thing, as soon as the game starts, Oliver gets shot off the bat, right? So now we're down players. They're up, they're up on players. They're in the snake. We lost Oliver. Um, it's just, Alex is freaking out. Like it was like, so I turn back around, and right when I turn, I see the flap of his pack go to the next, like go up to the 50 of the snake, right? And now at this point, they have two people in the snake. So there's Mishka, and then Konstantin is right behind him in the snake. So now I know Mishka's in the 50, and it's almost better for me that I know, because now there's two people in the snake. So I know where two people are, and I know that one's at the 50 for sure. So I'm not like looking around trying to find this guy. And I already knew, I know how, I knew how he plays. It's like he's going to get to the 50 and immediately try to come out and shoot you, because he's not going to wait for the rest of your team to tell you and communicate,
Right.
hey, he's at the 50, right? So I already know.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that his flap, I was like, he's coming right out. So I have my gun right where he's going to come out, and sure enough, sticks his face right into, I shoot him like 4 times in the goggles. Like he didn't have a chance to snap shoot me. Like he came out right into, my stream was going. I timed it to the second, and I knew I was I was only gonna have that one chance, because once he definitely had the advantage, snap shooting wise, or bunker wise. I was in a pretty compromised position. I was really like leaned into this bunker and living behind my gun, where he could
Right.
he could use definitely use the bunker to stay alive from me. So I shot him, and then right when I shot him, I remember I was like, okay, I have this split second where if I do something, I might be able to make something happen, because if I don't, then Fedorov is going to get right up into the 50. I already know as soon as I shot Mishka, Fedorov was going to fill that spot. So I was like, as soon as he fills it, my whole window is gone. I have no window once Fedorov fills it, and he probably just saw Mishka get shot, so he's gonna be like, I'm not gonna make that same mistake, right? So he's not gonna give me that free kill. So I was like, before he gets into that 50, which is gonna be, I probably have 10 seconds max to make a move, then I better do it now. And I went on the inside of my bunker, and my mirror was watching over the snake, so he was posted up to the outside. So I went inside, and then did come to the outside of his bunker, but he wasn't expecting, someone to stick a barrel in his goggles and shoot him, right? So even though he was posted up in that direction, he didn't get a shot off. So I shot him, and then ran the rest of the way down the field. They had 2 people in the back center, bunkered both people in the back center. They had a guy in the back corner on the other side of the field. Shot him. Like nobody out. Like I shot my mirror and one guy in the back center, both in their goggles, where they couldn't even get a ball off. And then it was the other guy in the back center. His back was turned to him, so I just shot him. The guy in the other back corner, his back was turned to me. Shot him in the back, and then the only guy left was the snake player, which I think I think he popped up and kind of didn't know what the hell was going on because his whole team was walking off the field, and he didn't see me. And then BC ended up shooting him, but that was, I mean, at that point it was over. So I shot 6 guys, between, in probably a 15-second period, and then right when I went to grab the flag, Rodney shoots me in the tank. So I'm like, I don't even get to grab the flag and run it back or anything, right? But
Dang.
literally, but it's on. There's video of it. We were sponsored by WDP at that point, so I think Owen Owen from WDP was filming it from the sidelines, and it's pretty funny because there's, at the end of the video, it shows someone on the sidelines wearing that's part of the Russian Legion camp, wearing a Russian Legion jersey, and he's literally jumping up and down like with anger. And so I think that was definitely probably my most memorable, playing moment when it comes to paintball.
That's a good one, dude. You'll have to send me that video so I can put a link to it in the description here.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about who's your favorite teammate? Favorite person to play with?
Favorite person to play with? My favorite person to play with, definitely, I would say, would be Alex. Alex Frazier.
Why is that?
We think about the game very similarly. I think we play very much alike and very similarly, and I think we both absolutely know what the other person is doing, and thinking on the field. And he's someone that communicates really well, really good as well. That was something that I really, really enjoyed with playing with SK as well. It was just different. Like, for my whole career, I pretty much played in the front. And obviously, throughout my playing career, there were a lot of changes in format for the different tournaments. So, in the beginning it was 10-man, and there were 5-man tournaments as well. But the main tournaments were, the big tournaments and important tournaments, and the biggest format was 10-man. And in 10-man, it's very different. It's a very different structure and layout between the front guy and your back guy. You have to rely on, you have to rely on everything. Your whole game is reliant on your back guy, right? Communicating, shooting down the line, really relaying, because you have to remember, like, the fields are big. So a lot of times, the back guy, you're not necessarily just, as a back guy, you're not just concerned with gunfighting or one specific thing. You're really you're really orchestrating and coordinating the whole game and game plan. And there's a lot of people on the field that you can see where they're at, that you can't shoot and they can't shoot you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you might have a couple guys that you're shooting at as a back guy, but you're also really coordinating and planning the game out. So your back guys really had to know strategy, and had to also know what you needed as a front guy and what you were dealing with. Whereas I think a lot of, and that's what separated the good back players from the bad ones, whether somebody was a good gunfighter or not. It was the ability to see the game. So
right.
Then obviously when it went to 7-man, now it's more, the kind of the back player role was a little lessened. You had kind of the back players were very much more kind of utility. Like you had your back players had to be good snake players or good front players also, right? They were, no matter, even if they started out in the back, they, at any moment they were going up to the front, right? And then obviously with X ball and, format and 5-man, then it's, your back players, there aren't no more multiple back players. It's only your back, the only back player is your back center guy who's probably just, probably getting out of there real quick anyways. So then there's really no, the line is even less. It's just all people that can, that can move, run and shoot quick. Right. So I think overall across those formats, Alex would be my favorite player, just because, like I said, his communication is impeccable, and we view the game very similarly, and we see the game very very alike during the game as well. There are other players that are probably more exciting to play with. Without a doubt, I think Oliver's probably the most exciting player that's ever played and maybe will ever play. And the reason I say that is because of the different formats and where the game is now with the format. It's not, everyone's just making moves left and right, especially when it comes to X ball and sure, I'm not saying you can't get creative, but it's like, if you see a move once, you better believe like every match after that, you're seeing that move. And most likely it's coming in the first match, because everyone already has the layouts. You're only playing that, that one field, and you're getting in multiple matches, or not multiple matches, but multiple points. So even if if you're in your first match and you go up 4-1 on someone, then that's a perfect time to try out some crazy move, because who cares if you lose the point? Whatever, you lose the point, you go to the net. Okay, if it worked, cool. Or if it didn't work, cool. Or you can at least what you're going to try again in the future, or maybe save for a later match, or whatever it is. But you have the ability to just try stuff out, and you already know kind of ahead of time, hey, if we're up big or we're down big, then this is this is the move that I'm going to try. Whereas in other formats, a lot of times you have to try something, you have to come up with it mid game, because there's so many, like you might see a general move, like, okay, going from this bunker and bunkering that bunker is an option, or later in the, if we're running low on time, or if I need to make something happen, this is kind of a general move. But there's so many more variables, and with games developing, whereas in X ball you pretty much have your game plan, and it's like there's not that much that can really vary, because right. So it's those types of moves where you see people working it out middle of the game as things are unfolding, and then and then doing those moves that I feel are really exciting. Sure, it's cool when someone goes and bunkers someone else, but like it
dude, it's crazy,
done, right?
Like,
so
Alex talked about the same thing. Ryan Brand talked about the same thing. I talked about this with Oliver as well, and it's basically that you can make big moves in X ball, and they're certainly there, but sometimes they're inconsequential. Like if you're down 4-1 and you make a big move, you could still lose that game, and no one's going to remember that. And
Yep.
and Oliver was saying how, back in the days of 7-man and 10-man, when those were the premier formats, a big move could make your entire career. That could have you remembered forever. One single move, because it
Yep.
happened in a split second. It happened when it mattered, and it made the difference between winning and losing. It was consequential, right?
Exactly.
So
I mean, you absolutely. I mean, there's so many, that's literally um, how I remember, um, remember players and events, you know,
totally,
when I was coming up was by individual, specific moves.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so in that sense, I think that Oliver is the best to ever do it when it comes to that. Um, and I have my list of probably 5 or 10 most exciting players where you know depending on kind of how you view it, and you can really narrow down specifics, um, but from just overall game, like from the beginning of the game or the breakout, right? Um, I think probably, Glenn Forrester and Eric Felix probably had the most creative breakouts ever,
Yeah.
right? Of any kind of
Glenn
field
still
captain.
does in 10-man.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so there were a lot of exciting players that you can say, and there were a lot of moves that I did that were based on our breakout plan. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm the one that did that move, but you also have to give credit to the game plan, in that it's not like I
Mm-hmm.
came up with that. Like we went over that plan for an hour and detailed
Yeah.
it out step by step, right? It's not like I was in the middle of the game and was like, oh, I'm going to come up with some crazy off the wall stuff and accomplished it. It's like, you have every other player that plays a role into it. Like, one person might be shooting for you to keep someone in so that they can't shoot you or don't see you. You have another person that's doing some other job that's going to a spot that's looking over you as soon as you get into your spot, so they can't just come and bunker you. And then so there's a lot more stuff. So at least when it comes to breakout stuff, I definitely look at that more as a
Yeah.
team kind of aspect. But Oliver was one of the people that was creative, that would come up with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There were some players where it was just like, I'm going to do whatever I'm told, and there were other people that would actually have input on the game plan, right? So
Right.
Oliver always had input on the game, a lot of input on the game plan. So I give him credit there. Then I would say mid game, he was more exciting and more creative than probably anybody. And end game, he was probably one of the most effective kind of attackers
Closers.
at
Yeah.
closing games out. I mean, it was, it seemed like in an era where people were concerned about making a move and shooting one guy. It was, with Oliver, it was like 3, 4, 5 guys. It's like, holy
Yeah.
shit, and then somehow would be at the back of the field shooting people, and still alive. Like he has like some type of like Jedi force around him, right? So that's why I would pick Oliver as far as most exciting player. And but I would, as far as you have to take the other side of it too, where there were definitely times when we would be playing and Oliver would just decide to make a move, and okay, if it doesn't work, sometimes it doesn't work out, and then you're like,
Right.
ah, shit, we lost someone, like, whereas, on one hand, you can never hold that against him, and 9 out of 10 times, the moves he made worked out, whereas, maybe another player that, that there were a lot of, I would say, kind of like, I guess, like wannabes, right? Like, oh, Oliver did that move, and then, Oliver was by far the most popular and most followed player. So it was understandable that if you would have 100 people or 200 people on the sideline just watching
Yeah.
Oliver and seeing what move he makes, so that they can go, the next time they play, they're going to try to recreate that move, right, at their next
Do you remember
practice, or
at LA Open, Dynasty's first year pro is on the JT field, is against the Ironmen, and Oliver went to the center pyramid. It was a huge center pyramid, and he went to go a little run through up the center of the field and tripped on the way. Yeah, you were playing with Dynasty. You weren't playing with the Ironman at this point, right?
I was playing that game with Dynasty.
With Dynasty, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Oliver ran up the center, tripped. No one saw him. Got up, and he bunkered 4 or 5 people. And that's the move that I remember with Oliver, and it blew my mind.
I mean,
dude. I was like, wow.
That is definitely one move that absolutely sticks out. I absolutely remember that game and that tournament. So we were I was just to the right of, I was in the bunker just behind the volcano, and to the right, it's kind of a Dorito, but it was kind of in the middle of the field, kind of like mid 40 Dorito. And I remember there was someone in my mirror, and he was one of the first people that I think Oliver had a mirror, I think, and he bunkered him out, and then I think my mirror was the second guy that Oliver shot when he got up. And I remember I was out. I had my gun out on him. I was out on him, and all of a sudden he's like walking off the field, and I'm like, well, I didn't shoot him. And that bunker, you really couldn't get shot at from the other side of the field, because you had the volcano. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's weird. And then I see someone else walking off, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And it's funny, because right when Oliver was shooting, like, the last person that he shot, that person shot me, like making a move. But I had no idea, and I was pissed at myself. I'm like, I can't believe, like, I got shot making that move, and I didn't really know what was going on. I just saw like a couple people walking off, and I was like, cool. I knew we were up like a couple bodies, but then I was kind of worried, because I'm like, even if you're up 10-8, it's not like, oh, the game's over or anything. And so I still felt like, me getting shot could potentially affect the game. And I was walking back to the dead box, and I kind of turned back around, and I'm like, wow, they're all dead. So, and I knew Oliver had done that move, but until I saw it played back, or on video later, I had no idea that he had tripped and then got back up. And
yeah, it was epic, dude.
Yeah. And so the next game was our final game of the tournament, and we played against Bob Long's Ironmen. And I had a really good game that game, and it actually came down to, I bunkered Little John, shot Bob Long out, and it came down to a 2-on-1, myself and Rodney against Kevin Jones, and he was in the back center Dorito, like switching back and forth, just like wild, shooting, trying to shoot at me and Rodney, and I had him blocked out with a can that was right in front of him. So I'm right up close to him, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna rip this guy's head off, right? And I go to snap shoot him, and he ends up shooting me. Like I thought I was being like sneaky, like coming out of from the side of the bunker that he wasn't going to be expecting. I'm just going to snap shoot him real easy. He doesn't really have too much to hide behind, especially with having to deal with Rodney. But I went from being like, oh, I just had one of the best games of my my career to, oh, I blew it. Now if we and again, this was a game that whichever team won was who won the tournament. And I'm like, if we lose this game, it's all my fault. I felt like I couldn't have had an easier setup and it's him. So then it comes down to Rodney and Kevin, and Rodney's just like in kind of no man's land, like not up too far. So it's like he wasn't up that far, so he couldn't really like capitalize on anything. Like sometimes, if you're deep up the field and it's a 2-on-1, your guy gets shot real quick, like, okay, I have a split second where maybe I can make a move and he won't see it, and I can get a guaranteed shot on him. Where Rodney was kind of in a spot that even if he did make a move, it wouldn't have had any any real impact, and and I remember I'm looking at him, and he's just kind of standing up over a bunker, and I'm like, dude, like you're 6'5", you're standing like there's 5 feet of your body standing up over like a laydown bunker, and you're just standing up in the middle of the field, and Kevin's got this big Dorito that he's behind and knows where you're at. Like I'm like, this is not gonna end well. And he takes out a pod and starts loading, and I'm like, and he's still standing up, just standing there loading. His gun's up, and he's like this with his gun, loading. And next thing you know, like shoots like 2 shots or something, and hits Kevin, and we win the game. So which was the first event of the season, and we won it. So that was a good feeling. It's always good to win the first event of the season, especially then, because in the 10-man days, you would have the pro teams would ref an event as well. So it was big at that point to you get that win, plus you're getting full points for reffing. So it was huge to come out. Basically you win the first event, and you have 2 wins under your belt. And back then it was it was very rare to see see teams really win a lot of events in the same year, just because you would have, the fields were so different. You would have events that, in one tournament you would have a field that was in thick woods, then you'd have another field that was like some random throw together stuff of garbage on a field, and you're like, what the hell is this? And then you have a hyperball field, and then you have an airball field. So it was back then it felt like you'd have teams come out of nowhere that would do really well in one tournament, and then terrible the rest in another tournament, not even lose. And you would play you would play like 2 pro teams in the prelims, and then you would have 3 games against amateur A, or or
right.
or Division 1, and then 3 games against, amateur B or Division 2, and you would have, some pro teams that did, that won a tournament, that the next tournament they're losing to their like amateur B teams.
Yeah.
It's so it was it was definitely different back then as to how it is now.
Yeah. So Opie, what
Yep.
what in your gear bag do you cherish the most?
Well, I would probably say I have an Ironkids headband that I have from the very first season of Ironkids, which actually was um, it actually was handed down from Oliver to Brad Mon, and then um, Brad gave it to me. I forget exactly why he gave it to me. I think probably the main reason was I probably needed a headband, forgot my headband, and he was like, here, here you go. But I remember there was some reason, some other reason as well that um, I don't I can't remember, but I remember that it always meant something to me, and since
And
then
you still have it.
I still have it, and I've always worn that one headband. I've never for I think I went probably 7 years of playing every game I played was with that headband. So
So what advice would you give to a player who wants to get to the top of competitive paintball?
I I personally just think it's passion. If I think with anything, if you really want to get to the top level, um, you need to have that passion. And I think there's a difference between liking something and being willing to do whatever it takes to get there. I remember when I started playing, and I was playing, you know, rookie, novice, rookie and novice paintball. Like, we would get beat, and every single time that that I was on a team that lost or got beat, the next tournament we were making we were making up ground on the rest of the teams. So it was like, if we can't, there was never, up until I got to the point of being at the very top level, which at that point you have, everyone is on that level. Um, where everyone wants to win, and not only wants to win, but has kind of the resources behind them,
Mm,
of, okay, I'm gonna play paintball every 3 days a week, or every weekend, and I have all the paintballs that I need, and I have the support that I need, and I'm able to travel, our team's able to travel to play against the best teams. And once you get to that point, once you're there, then then everyone's already been weeded out, and you're at that, you're on the same level with everyone else. I think that where people don't understand is that the work to get there, and when you don't have everything that you need, and you don't have that ability, you don't have the money to have 5 cases for you to shoot over the weekend. It's like, okay, what do I do? I only have enough for a half a case or a case, or for me, I would have half a case for the weekend, right?
mm,
That's not enough to get enough reps in and practice enough in order for you to really get better. So what sets you apart? I would do whatever I needed so that I could be the one with the 2 cases, so that I could play Saturday and Sunday, and get in all the games, and be ready, so that if a better team was out there practicing, and I could jump on with them for a game. I was ready. I wasn't stuck sitting on the sidelines just watching because I shot all my paint, right?
Hmm.
And what do you do for that? If you need a ref so that ref one day so that you can get what you need to play the other day and be able to play for free because you don't have the money, then you do that. Oh, do you work in a paintball store during the week? While you're also going to school, maybe you do that, but it's for each person, it can be different. But what's the same is that that desire and passion and drive and knowing that I'm going to do whatever it takes to get better.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, it certainly paid off for you. I mean, you've traveled the world, you've had some amazing experiences because of paintball. So what would you say that you're most thankful for that paintball has given you?
oh, by far the people that I've met and what I've experienced with those people, from 10 of us living in a house together in San Diego
Oh yeah.
to, traveling all around the world with your best friends and, the stuff that we have experiences that, that you wouldn't believe if you didn't, if you weren't there, you wouldn't believe it. And, and that's what's cool about the whole community, paintball community in general is so many people have had those same experiences of of being in some random place somewhere in the world with 5 or 10 of your closest friends, you know ending up doing something completely random and memorable and something that you'll remember with other people forever. And for me, I'm thankful that you know with Dynasty, we had more of those moments than for most people, most pros, it was like they would have that opportunity one time a year, maybe
Yeah.
maybe twice, right? Whereas we were going to Asia, South America, Europe, 8 times, every single event. Whereas most pro teams from the US were going one, to the one big, the last event of the year, whether they were going to Toulouse every year, and that was it, right? And meanwhile, we're in these crazy mountains in Spain and living out of bungalows and like just completely random random places and people. And so I definitely think that's the most memorable.
Awesome. Well, Opie, thank you so much for your time here. Is there anything that you'd like to part with for the paintball community?
um no, this was a blast. Keep at it, keep building the sport. And I really appreciate this, and you're doing a good job with this, Isaac.
Cool. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.